Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the New Construction Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Anya Chrysanthemum, and I'm very excited to introduce my guest for today, Shawn Van Dyke. Shawn is a keynote speaker. He is a business coach, and he is author of Profit First for Contractors. Now, Shawn attributes a lot of his success and his business growth to the growth of his Instagram. So I thought, what perfect person to have on the show today than Shawn. And Shawn's got over almost 12,000 followers on Instagram. And as you guys know, in our industry, that's huge, right? If you look at anybody in the YouTube unwrapping toys videos, and they have like 5 million followers, and like the best trainers in our industry are like 1,000 followers. It's like, yay. So obviously Shawn's doing something right. So I figured let's talk to Shawn about what is it that he's doing and how can we imitate some of that. So welcome to the show, Shawn. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Anya. This is great to be on here. It's funny that you say, almost 12,000 followers on Instagram, which means I finally have some street cred with my middle school kids. So we were talking earlier.
10,000, the swipe
yeah.
up, right?
So, dad, parents, when you get in that middle school age, parents are all kind of dorky or whatever, but some of my middle schoolers friends found me on Instagram, and they were like, man, your dad is huge. He's got like over 10,000. And so I've started to become cool again with my, at least with my teenagers anyway. So that's about all that it seems that I've, lately, that's I kind of hang my hat on that. Is like, I don't know what it's like on the other side, what I've come across on the other side of Instagram, but with my teenage kids, I'm pretty cool. So that's a good thing for Instagram.
Yes, definitely. All right. So, obviously, you started somewhere, right? Like, so when did you open your Instagram account? And if you can kind of talk to us about that growth, how were you able to get there? Because it seems that with algorithm changing all the time, people spend a lot of time on social media trying to grow their following, and sometimes it's not happening. So what do you think sets you apart? How were you able to get to where you are now?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny. It really started it was probably about 4 years ago. I've been doing my business coaching thing for 3 years. So only about a year before that, not even a full year before that, before I quit my job and started doing this, I was working as a chief operations officer for a trim and millwork company.
Mm-hmm.
And we had about 20 carpenters that worked for us, and several of our lead carpenters, young guys. And we worked in very high-end homes where we were at. And so as the chief operations officer, we realized that we probably needed some kind of social media policy, because you were working in very affluent homes. And we knew that, like, we can't be taking pictures and videos of inside people's homes. And so I started looking at some of the accounts of our lead carpenters, just checking to kind of actually to formulate our social media policy.
Mm-hmm.
And carpenters love taking pictures of their work. And when I got on there, and one of our lead carpenters, I noticed he had 10,000 followers or more. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And he said, oh, there's this whole community of carpenters and young tradespeople that follow him. And so that's where I first noticed it. It was like, man, I'd kind of heard of Instagram, but I hadn't done anything on there. And so I was just looking at our younger carpenters and started following them, and then checking out some of the people that were following them and commenting. And I thought, oh, wow, this is great. And then I saw this huge gap, really, as I started looking, and I saw all of these contractors and construction business owners and other people in the trades, and I saw the quality of their work was fantastic. But then I started to say, man, they're spending a lot of time on Instagram. I know, because I'd been working in the industry for 20 years, I was like, I know that they're probably suffering in their business. I know they aren't selling this work for as much as that they could. And so that was kind of key for me, is that's when I jumped on Instagram. It's always been a business opportunity for me. Like, I didn't do it because I was anything social media or anything. I just saw a business opportunity there where I thought that I could probably help some of these construction business owners that were on there posting great work. And I just knew that they probably weren't charging enough. They weren't making enough money, or they probably didn't have the systems in place. And one of those things I could tell is because they were heavily on social media. And I think a lot of people jump on social media because it is easy and they think that that's the key. And although it is great and it's a powerful tool, without good, solid marketing strategy behind it, it is a huge waste of time. It's huge waste of time, because you could take that time and apply it to, we're talking the basics of marketing, good old fashioned networking, yard signs, billboards. I know, and people that are in social media say, oh, that stuff doesn't work. But when you're a contractor and you just need your name, your logo, and your phone number out there, sometimes the best advertising you can have is just sending people in neighborhoods cards that you know that they're going to throw away. And they say, well, they're going to throw away, it's no value. No, they have to put it in the trash in order to get rid of it. And every time they do, they see your name, your number, and your brand. And so I don't know. Social media is great. It's very powerful. But if you don't have proper strategy behind it, it's a huge waste of time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that, because I think that is a huge mistake that a lot of people make. They spend a ton of time on social media and they really have no strategy behind it. So let's talk strategy. So in my opinion, personally, I think there's two reasons why you should be on social media. And correct me if I'm wrong, let's talk about your strategy, because obviously you've got it figured out. So I'd say number one is visibility, brand awareness. And two is lead generation. So as far as visibility, brand awareness, the reality is what people see is what people believe, right? So how can we as new home sales reps take that opportunity and establish our authority as the go-to person that our clients, because let's face it, people start searching for a home 18 months before they're actually ready to buy. So you better be, sure that they're definitely checking you out online. So if they're comparing your community to 5 other communities and they're looking up at your profile, and you happen to have your profile established as a new home sales go-to, new home sales expert, providing all this advice, all this valuable information, versus the next rep who is maybe posting, bikini pictures or
Are reps doing that? Like I said, I need to go, I need to go investigate that, do a little more research.
Or, just posting just for sake of posting, or pictures of family, which pictures of family are great as well. And we can talk about that too, because you do want to show that personal side and establish that relationship. But I think it does set you apart, and in their mind elevates you, and people want to work with an expert. Let's face that. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, you definitely on the first point. Yeah, you have to have brand awareness. But what I have found, and what I tell people is, with social media, you have to realize, if it's easy, which a lot of social media is, that's why there's so many people on it. If it's easy, then everybody's going to do the easy thing. And so you have to look beyond the easy stuff, meaning, hey, we've got an account, we post regularly. And if you kind of think, yeah, that's kind of easy, but I'm not getting results out of it, because you're in competition with everybody else that's doing the easy stuff. So I don't want you to intentionally make it hard, but it is hard to connect with those customers in a very certain way, because there's so many people doing the very, top level stuff that's easy to do. So you got to look for the hurdles that you can jump over that the other people aren't doing. And that's what I found has been successful for me, is not only the brand awareness. I don't even think that when I got on social media, I wasn't thinking of brand awareness. I didn't really think of myself like that at all. I was just thinking about how can I get people to come back to me. The only reason that they would is either you're entertaining, which, bikini pictures, but I don't look good in a bikini.
That's probably
So
not
that,
what you want to be known for.
yeah, that's probably not what I want to be known for. But then the second thing is just value. Like, if you're the person that provides value and you're constantly educating your customer, your client, your potential client, especially when you have a long lead time, like 18 months, like they see you once or twice, they're just going to replace you with somebody else that's easy to find. But you got to give them a reason to come back. Like, oh, every time I come onto this account or I check this out, there's another thing that I didn't know, or it's something that I thought that I knew and they went even deeper with it, or there's a whole new thing that I never even thought about. And then with that, the personal brand awareness, they get to know you as a person. Like, I post pictures of my kids and have told a story about my wife and some of the, some of the fun things, because people want to know. I think what's the glue that pulls the brand awareness with the lead generation together is on authenticity. And these days, I believe that being authentic is a skill, because it's hard not to be influenced by somebody on social media, especially people that do it really well. And it's really easy to think like, oh, that worked for them, I'll try that myself. And you think, well, that's what works. The reason it worked for them, in one aspect, is because that's authentically who they are. And what you're seeing is the result of probably years worth of, this sounds weird, but years worth of self-awareness and developing their own authentic voice of who they really are. And that comes across. And when people are trying to be authentic, it is very, very hard to manufacture long term. You can do it for a short term and get some likes, but to keep that up is very difficult. So that's what I think for me, that's what I found that works, not because I was intentional about it, but what people have told me when I have met them. I had zero strategy when I jumped on Instagram other than provide value, gather leads, give them more value, and eventually someone will say, can you solve my problems? And I'll say, yep. Can you send me some money? And they said, I'll do it, because I've trusted you up to this point. And the thing that really drives it home is like, they're like, oh, you're a real person. Like, when you talk to me, hopefully that's the same thing that comes across in my stories. I don't try to be anybody else.
Yep.
But I also think that I never went into social media with anything else other than wanting to run a really good business.
So you bring up an excellent point here. So you mentioned word bringing value several times. So what drives me crazy when I scroll through either Instagram or LinkedIn or any social media, and I follow several, sales reps accounts or even builders, but sales reps more so because obviously that's my market. So what I see them post a lot of times is, a picture of the model home with, hey, we're having a grand sale or whatever, 50% off options, and every single thing that they're posting is something about either the sale they're having, the red tag sale, the whatever sale, and it's just a picture of their community, or come check out my community, only 10 home sites left. And I'm thinking to myself, no wonder you're not getting any engagement on that. Like, who gives a shit, pardon my language, about that? Like, who cares? Nobody cares about that, right?
No, well, yeah, I would say that a lot of people care about that have been following you for valuable information because when you are having a sale, when you're offering something, and when that discount comes up, those people are going to know about it because they've engaged with you. And so that's the time to do it. But if that's all your engagement is, and I had to learn that too, especially when I started gathering a following, and was able to start selling some of my coaching services, then you kind of go, oh, well, this works. And you go make some sales. And so you continue down that path. And then I kind of look back and said, oh, wait a minute, this is not what got me here. I need to step back on the selling so much and make sure I get back to the value. And then for me, that was like, okay, like 80% of what I try to do is value, 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 value.
Yes.
so that when the 20% is, I got something to buy, or there is a discount, or, and all of that stuff, creating scarcity, discount, all of that that's just good sales. And some people will always look at that and roll their eyes. As long as you're charging if you charge $1 for anything, someone's going to roll their eyes at you and say, that's a ripoff. I don't care how much it is. Right. But the people that you have engaged with and you provided value a majority of the time, they're going to buy almost regularly when you do have something for sale. But it's got to be that lopsided: 80% value, 20% sale. And the people that want to buy, they'll line up to do it. But yeah, you're right. People saying, oh, well, this doesn't work. Or they see that other person doing that community launch, and what they see is the results, the success of that. And they say, oh, I'll just copy that. I can just do that. And but what they're copying is the 20% without the 80% leading up to it. And that 80% sucks. That 80% is like sitting down on that couch in the morning, 3 or 4 days a week, and thinking, what problem can I try to solve today? Or is there a better way to present the problem I tried to solve 6 months ago? Can I make it even easier for somebody to absorb? Is there one, and I literally think about that. Is there one way to say this sentence more concise so that 2 seconds that someone pays attention to me, it sticks with them? And it's that sort of thinking that drives the engagement, so that when me or an agent puts something on sale or announces a launch, like why wouldn't they buy from you? Because they've been following you that other 80%. But so many people see the 20% and say, oh, I'll do that. That's easy. Yep, that's right. That is the easy part. It's the 80% that's the hard part.
Yeah. And I think, at least I have not seen any accounts of new home salespeople that are doing that 80%. Unfortunately, it's all the 20%. That's the advertising, posting pictures of the model, the sale, what I have in my community, but they're not doing any of that education. So you guys, I really, really want you to shift your mindset here and think about, how can you bring value? Because until you do, nobody's going to care about what you have to offer. Not until they care, they're going to pay attention. So how can you make them care? What are the topics that you can talk about? So, I mean, I think that's really, really easy. Like, you're in a model home day in, day out. You're meeting with your customers. I bet you they're asking you the same exact questions over and over again. So start off by writing out 10 questions that you're getting over and over and over again from your customers, and then address those questions individually in a quick video. Now let's talk about video, Shawn. I know you do a ton of video. Love watching you. And you're right. So as far as authenticity goes, I think when we finally had a chance to meet in person at the International Builder Show, I felt like I knew you already, because I see so many stories that you do, and you're right. You're exactly what I would expect. So for somebody who's like, well, I don't really want to do video. It's 1, a lot of work. 2, I don't look good on video. 3, it's just, there's no way I'm going to do video. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, video's where it's at, video's where it's going. So if you have a problem with video, then you're going to be losing out. That's just the way that people are consuming content. And I don't know what's coming after video, holograms,
Yeah, right?
like it's going to be something else, but it's just so easy to consume. And I mean, there's been numerous studies that have shown that people don't read websites, they scan for information, but they will stop in their tracks for a video. And there's even been studies that show, even now, heavily produced videos don't get as much engagement as the shaky cell phone camera video. And I know, because I feel the same way. I'm walking through an airport and I think, this is the perfect time to shoot a video, solely for the reason that there's movement going on around me. And those first second to second and a half of something moving around is what gets people to stop. You have to have the content. It has to be valuable or whatever. But in this day and age, when we're bombarded with content, it's like we're like cats that are chasing the little laser pointer around. Video is very engaging. And so even some people, they're not seeing the engagement on their video because they think they have to do it correctly, whatever that means. So they hire a video person. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to mix in some of the unprofessional stuff. Now, I will say about video that I have learned, lighting and sound matter.
Yes.
Stand in front of a window with sunlight to shoot that video, and get an external mic or some additional mic, because if you lose the audio, they're never going to engage in the video. But if you've got some good lighting, and I mean, these days the cell phones are so high quality there's really no excuse why you can't produce a very good video. But you have to be willing to turn that camera around on yourself, and just know everybody gets it feels awkward doing it the first few times. But I'm telling you, if you develop that message, whatever that message is, that provides value, and you're solving people's problems, and you talk about that in the language of your customers, not yourself, and you make a video out of it, you just have to get that success once, and people responding to that, then you'll do it again. And we all get nervous. We all take a million takes sometimes. But that's the great thing about it. There's almost no cost to shooting video these days. So except for get good light and a good microphone.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. So, and I think there's definitely some place for professionally done videos, and that would be, on your website. If you're, if you have a bio video or customer testimonials or something like that, I think for sure that needs to be professionally done. But if it's on social media, like you're saying, the more authentic, the more real it is, the more customers are likely to engage with you, because they want to see the real person, not rehearsed, just as whatever you're putting out. So
yeah, I mean, and that's the whole point of like Instagram stories too, is not, and I mean, it's developed now and people are doing ads, and I've run ads, and there's, highly produced stuff. But originally, that stories were made to compete with Snapchat, because it was quick, it was unpolished, it was real, it was the authentic, type of person. And I've paid video people to do, like you said, professional videos, but they're for a very specific purpose, like for speaking engagements and other things like that, where people are finding me and they want to see someone, they want to see a polished video because they want to hire a polished speaker. But other than that, it's just kind of off the cuff. That's what I've found that works for me.
Mm-hmm. And, if you guys are thinking like, oh my gosh, like, of course, Shawn's saying that because look at him, he looks great. Of course, he's going to look great on camera. But the reality is, like, when you think about a customer walking into your model home, like, are you hiding behind your desk? Like, don't look at me. Like, are you not presenting to your customer the information that you're presenting to them? Like, no. Or are you going, oh my God, wait, let's take a second take on that. Like, you would never say that in real life, right? So just think about, like, camera is nothing more than a person that you're speaking to. And if that helps you to visualize an actual person instead of a camera lens, like, do that. Just speak to that one person and talk to them like you would to a customer. That's all it is. And again, you do have a beauty of recording it and retaking it if you want to, but you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be polished. And I think that's a big peace of mind, knowing that it doesn't need to be perfect, but it needs to be valuable.
Yeah. And that's, again, back to what we were talking about earlier. It is easy not to turn the camera on yourself. It's hard to do that. And that's why so many people don't do it. Do the hard thing that other people aren't willing to do, and combine that with being authentic and provide value. You're going to see your engagement go up. And that's why I say is then to really take that all the way home to, for running a business, make sure to tell people what you want them to do. Like, be engaging, be authentic, show the benefits of whatever it is that you're trying to sell, and then make sure to tell people what to do. Like, go to the model home, go to our landing page, fill the thing out. Hell, send me money. Like, you would be surprised. People will do what you tell them to do, but you have to get over thinking like, oh, I don't, they know. They'll click the link in my bio. They'll go to my website if they want to get more information. No, they will not. They are bombarded with information. You have to tell them exactly what to do. And don't, I think Seth Godin says it in one of his books. He says, don't get bored. When you find out your marketing message that works, don't get bored with it. Because you need to repeat it, and you will get bored with it. Or he says, don't change it when you get bored with it. He said, don't change it when your salespeople get bored with it. Don't change it when the CEO gets bored with it. The only time you change your marketing message that works is when your accountant gets bored with it. Meaning when your accountant says, you've made so much money from this marketing message, now we can change it to try something else. But
Yep.
you got to tell people what to do. And I know it's nerve wracking. You think, because you've said it 100 times today, swipe up, click the link in my bio. That's why it's so important to make sure that 80% of the time you're offering them value, but you can still drive them. You can drive them to do a call to action that eventually will lead to a purchase. Like, hey, go check out this information. Like, it has nothing to do with me. It's just good information. Go make it easy for you to be the source where people get linked up with other information. That's how my book even came about. Like, I just read this book called Profit First, thought that it was really good, and started talking about it and told people, hey, swipe up here, or go here to go buy this other author's book. And then a few months later, I end up talking to that author and working with him. And we get a deal together for me to write that book for the construction industry.
That's
But
awesome.
when I brought that information to my audience, I wasn't going to write a book. I had no idea how to write a book. But that's where it ends up when you become the authority for that thing. And don't worry if someone else is already saying that. You can say it too. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room for people to provide value, because not that many people are.
Yes, you're making so many great points here. So first is, yeah, call to action. It's just like sales 101, right? When somebody's in your model and they're engaging with you, think about like, what's the next step that I want them to do? Same thing, any piece of content you're producing. So whether it's on social media, your email, phone call, whatever it is, what's the next thing I want you to do? So in that case, I would love for you to say, hey, I just gave you 3 points on, what to look for when you're comparing new versus used. If you want more information, I would love to talk to you about that. Stop by my model home. Here's the information. Instead of just posting that model home picture that provides no value. So now you actually provided value, you engage them, they want more information. Now they know where to find you and where to go for that. So absolutely love that. And for people who are thinking like, well, who am I to be an authority? Like, I'm just selling homes here. Like, if you think about your audience, which would be, people who want to buy new homes, like, think about how little people know about how to build a home. Think about how little people know about how to even buy a house. There's so many misconceptions there when it comes to new construction. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to step in as an authority, because guess what? That's what you do for a living. It makes you an authority already. So all you need to do is just step into it naturally and own it, right?
Yeah.
And like Shawn said, like, there's going to be 100 other people who are doing the same thing. But if they're not doing this, you're going to stand out as a true authority. And that's the easiest way to establish yourself in a marketplace as an authority. And people want to do business with an expert.
Yeah. And here's my definition of an expert. This was kind of the epiphany that I had before I became a business coach, or even thought that anybody. I'd been working in various construction businesses and owned several businesses. And then one day I realized that I was an expert. I even told my wife. I was brushing my teeth, and I had realized, and it was so surreal, but I was brushing my teeth. I was just thinking, and I realized that I was coming up on, this was a few years ago, but it had been 19 years since I had graduated from college.
Mm-hmm.
Not from high school, but from college. I had done nothing for the past 19 years except work in and around the construction industry. And I remember telling my wife, I said, honey, I'm an expert. I've been doing this stuff for almost 20 years. And she just kind of laughed. And I said, and here's what the definition of an expert is. And I told her, I said, if anybody has a question about construction, I can either answer the question or I know who to call to get the answer. Not saying that I knew everything, but I knew a lot of people that were smarter than me. And that's all that people care about. Can I get my question answered? And I realized, yeah, if I can't answer it, I can find the person that does. I'm probably only 2 phone calls away. And for me, I said, why would anybody hire me as a consultant, as a business coach, or anything like that? And when I realized, wait a minute, I've got 20 years of experience. I have a lot of knowledge. The things that most people suffer with, and these are going to be the same for your clients as well, are the basic stuff.
Yep.
We think I'm not the best fill in the blank. I don't have all of these years of experiences. And if somebody asks me this super technical question, I don't have experience in it. But then if you think, wait a minute, I know some people that have done that or been in longer than me, I can get a hold of them, but people aren't going to ask you the technical stuff. They struggle with getting past the basic stuff. And so that's why I would say for those people out there that in your audience that want to, really turn up their social media authority and their expertise, is you got to dial it back to the fundamental things. Like you'd said, write down the 10 things that, that your customers struggle with. I would say exactly. Write down those 10 things and pick the top 3 that you hear all the time, because you're skipping right over those thinking, well, everybody knows the answer to that. Nope.
No.
They you may think so, but it's those 3 things that are on the top of people's minds, and you become the expert in providing value on those 3 things. And trust me, you're going to be like, Shawn, but my 3 things, I wrote down the 10 things, and these 3 things are so basic. That's the stuff that people can understand the fastest. And when you start talking about those 3 basic things, whatever they are, how you solve them, and I wouldn't even say how you solve them, tell stories about how you've solved them for your customers. Get your customers to talk about those 3 basic things. You will see people flock to you. Then you get invited into a conversation about the other 7 things on the list, but you'll have made the sale. You'll have warmed them up by talking about those 3 things, and you'll talk about them again and again and again. And like I said, you'll get bored with the message, but your customers won't. And that's what can get really exciting about it. So you've got to be able, when you're answering whatever those 3 questions are for the 1000th time, that's where the authenticity really comes in, is you got to remember back when you help that first client solve that basic problem and bring that level of excitement to the thousandth customer that you've answered that to. And people will talk about you. You'll get so much leverage off of that.
Yes, I love that. So, and really, really great point is that you will get bored of that message. You'll think like, oh my God, I keep talking. Like for me, it's the follow-up. Like I've talked about follow-up, and I think like people are sick and tired of me talking about follow-up. But the thing is, for some people, it's the first time they're
That's
even
right.
coming into that message with me. Or it's for somebody else, they need to listen to it. They need to hear it several times, maybe just in different form for them to finally click. So, and then I think it's important to pay attention to you don't, the big mistake that people make with their content is they think like, okay, these are the things that people want, instead of listening to the feedback and seeing what actually resonates with your audience, what your clients are responding to. So if you find that thing that your clients are responding to, guess what? Do more of that, right?
Yeah, just go deep, keep going deeper on that thing. That was for me when I got on Instagram, I viewed it as a laboratory. Like, I mean, all of the stuff that I was throwing out there, again, it was questions that I had gotten over the years or thoughts that I was having, or I would see other things in other industries, and I would take that information and bring it to the my construction audience and throw it out there. And I just see what came back. And when stuff came back, I went deeper in on that. When even more stuff came back, then I went deeper in on that. And then I just started becoming known for some of those type of things. And it'll be surprising to you what comes back. That's another thing about social media. Not only, providing the value and being authentic, but also using it as a laboratory to test things out. Because again, people aren't going to remember a whole lot of stuff, especially at the rate at which we consume stuff. So when things come back at you, it's real easy for it to stand out, for you to develop a little, do a little bit more on that. And but if you're always just trying to sell, and like you said, you're not listening to your customer, or you're only looking for maybe the likes or certain types of engagement, you're going to miss some of that stuff where it's coming back to you, where people are asking you to go a little bit deeper or to explain a little bit more. And I've just learned that, man, I have no formula for it. The craziest things in the world is what people engage with the most. Like a couple of years ago, I think I was frankly just tired. I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to post today or what value I can offer. I'm going to just post about my morning routine. Oh my gosh. That, like, I had this crazy 2 hour, hour and a half, 2 hour long morning routine and meditation and drinking my coffee and doing all this other kind of weird stuff, journaling. But so many people engaged with me about that and responded positively about that and asked questions. So I threw some more out of that. And then lo and behold, when as my business grew, people would reach out to me. And when they talk to me, they're like, hey, you're authentic. Like, you're really who you say you are. I really appreciate that. And I know that part of that is because I exposed kind of a personal side of it, and people responded back. So I was like, okay, I'll give you a little bit more. And it's the craziest things come back. Now, that's not to say that, I'm not one person. I'm not a person that like takes a picture of my lunch and posts it on Instagram. That's never been me. But if you do that, that's fine. That's your thing. That's just not, that's just not me. So you just have to figure out what works for you.
Mm-hmm. So to wrap up this conversation, let's talk a little bit more about, like, what can we do to drive that engagement even further? Because obviously, the Facebook, Instagram, pretty much all the social media, the way the algorithm works is that the way people are going to view your content is the more they engage with you, the more they're going to see it. And if they're not engaging with you, then they're going to actually stop seeing your content altogether. So beyond providing valuable information and including that call to action, what can we do to increase that engagement? So whether it's, responding to comments, do we go to their page and like their stuff? Like, what are some of the best practices that you've seen that you've seen success with?
Yeah, for me, it gets overwhelming sometimes. I try to respond to comments and engage with people that way. But as far as like building a brand on social media, I always just try to start a conversation with people. And I understand that people are really quick, because it is again, it's so easy these days to get connected with very influential people and to, engage with them. But you just have to start a conversation with them. Just like, follow, engage, ask the question. I talked about Seth Godin earlier. I posted something from one of his books, and his assistant reached out to me and sent me an audio message on Instagram. And I was blown away. And so I responded back to her with another audio message. And I'm just saying, don't respond, don't engage in hoping to get something in return. If you find it interesting, I think I kind of learned this when I was meeting other speakers and started doing other speakers, or doing more speaking events and meeting other speakers and watching really good speakers on stage. I always made it a point to go up to them and tell them that I appreciated their craft, because it is very difficult to stand up on stage and talk for an hour and not stutter, or to really command the stage. And even more than the content, when I see someone speaking really well, I know that everybody else is taking in the content and what it means to me when someone says, hey, by the way, I know how nervous you are. I know how much prep work that takes. You made it look easy. I appreciate what you're doing. And when I have done that for other speakers, I have engaged and been able to meet more influential people because I've complimented their craft of what they're doing. So as far as engaging with people on social media, start there. Do a little bit of research on people and find out what they're about. It's not that hard, especially if they're on on social media, you can learn what their mission is. You can learn what they're about and engage with that. That's what they're really out there, for. And you can jump ahead of the curve as far as engagement when you do a little bit of research. It's so easy to like and engage and make a quick comment. I get that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you really want to connect with people, then find out what they're about. It's just like meeting anybody. Ask them about themselves and compliment what they're doing. Like I remember the first time you and I met was about 2 seconds at IBS a couple of years ago, right? And it was in passing and I was running late and I felt like I totally blew you off or whatever. But then the year after that, it was, I want to make sure that I'm engaging, and we had conversations online. And then, here we are at IBS this past year. And like you said, it's like we had spent time together. That's what I think where a lot of people shortcut it is. They just say, oh, I can get in touch with this person. And so I'm just going to do something that's about me. But find a reason to engage with. Everybody's on a mission. Everybody's got some mission. Find some common ground with a person's mission. And if you can't, just compliment them on their mission. And I'm telling you, you will get invited into that conversation much sooner.
Yes, I think the thing people forget on social is that, I mean, it's just like real life, right? Like act like you would in real life. Like you're not gonna, don't be weirdo.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good rule. Social media, number one. Don't be a weirdo.
That's, I mean, just act like you would at, when you're meeting somebody at a party. How would you approach that conversation? You're not just gonna start talking about yourself the whole time. Hopefully you're going to ask them and engage with them and find something in common. And that's the really
yeah. But if you think about that, think about how many people you meet, and we all do this, and you do it too. It's like you meet people, and that's who they are. Meaning you meet them at a party, and they just talk about themselves. I used to be that way. I didn't understand that I was like that. That's why I think that self-awareness is so important too, because when you become self-aware, what it's like to be on the other side of you in a conversation, I had that epiphany too. I was like, oh man, no wonder, people don't like me or whatever. Maybe I need to ask more questions about other people. And when I did that and became a little bit more self-aware, then business took off, social media engagement took off, and life changed when I became more self-aware of like what I was like. So, but some people think, oh, okay, I'll just be myself. Not if you're a jerk. You need to ask some people, hey, what's it like to have a conversation with me? And you might be surprised what you hear. And if people say, yeah, you don't listen very well, you're not going to do well on social media, because like you said, it sounds weird to say social media, at least good engagement, is just like real life. People want to be around other people that feel like they're interested in them. So, and if you're a person that's, always runs over the conversation, that's probably how you are on social media too.
Not that far off from sales, right? Think about it, guys. Like are you doing the most talking when you're with the customer, or is the customer doing the most talking? You want the customer to do the most talking, because person who's having more fun is the person who's doing the talking.
That's right.
You want to get them talking and learning about them, so then you can actually use that information to help you sell them. So, but Shawn, thank you so much for being here today. I think we've got so many golden nuggets of information that we can put to use right away with our social media. Now, speaking about speaking and all the wonderful things you do. So if somebody wants to learn more about you, what can we do to find out more information, or where can we see you speak? What's next for you?
Yeah, let's see. I'm going to be doing, I've got a couple of private events coming up where I go out and do trainings. I'm trying to think. So the next public speaking that I'm going to be doing is going to be in March at the JLC Live conference there in Providence, Rhode Island. So if people are, for any construction business owners or contractors that are maybe listening, or real estate folks are going to be out there for that, then I'll be doing several sessions out there. But if people want to engage with me, then of course I'm on Instagram with Shawn Van Dyke, or they can go to my website, shawnvandyke.com, and they can find out all the information. If they want to have me come out and do a live training or speaking at their event, then that's the other thing about Instagram and social media. it's all going to change. You got to have a solid website and make sure that that call to action, people know how to, how to hire you on your website. So it's
Yes.
ShawnVanDyke.com, and that's SHAWN Van Dyke, VANDYKE. Just go there, or you can just Google me. I've spent a lot of time on the SEO, so I should show up everywhere if you're looking to find me. But I would love if anybody's got any questions. My email address and all that stuff is on my website, and you can contact me through Instagram. I hang out there quite a bit.
Perfect. And I'll be sure to link all of your information in the show notes so you guys can check out Shawn. And so true what you said, don't build your business or your authority on borrowed ground. Make sure that you always have a place to link back to your own website or your builder's website, your community's website. So call to action brings back off social media, because you never know. Instagram's here today.
There's going to be something tomorrow.
Yay. So you don't want to put all your eggs in that. So make sure you're taking people offline to engage wherever you are. So great advice. Thank you so much, Shawn. I appreciate your time, and I cannot wait to see you again, hopefully at IBS next year, but maybe before then somewhere.
Yeah, hope so. Thank you so much for having me on. This was awesome.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.